Ready for a deep dive. Today, we're heading over to Estonia, to Tartu. They're trying to reimagine their city center. And, well, you guys sent us a ton of documents about it. So we've got architectural plans, environmental reports, even traffic studies.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much information they've put out there about this project. It seems like they really want to get people talking.
Okay, so imagine this. You're in the heart of Tartu, walking along the Emajõgi River, maybe grabbing a coffee. Right along the river is where they want to build this brand new cultural center.
Ambitious.
Yeah, and huge. It's going to have everything. We're talking Tartu Art Museum, the city library, a concert hall, even a cinema, all in one place.
Trying to attract something like 800,000 visitors a year. Which, I mean, to put that in perspective, that's almost 2/3 of Estonia's entire population.
That's a lot of people.
It is. So it's a pretty big deal for them. And, it could really put Tartu on the map as a cultural destination.
But here's the thing. Remember that walk along the river I mentioned? Well, the land they've chosen for this cultural center is actually part of a park, a pretty popular one in the city center.
Yeah, that's right. And not just a small section either. We're talking about using almost half of the park for this development.
So it's a trade-off, right? They're trying to create this amazing cultural hub, but it means making some changes to a beloved green space.
Exactly. And it's interesting to see how they're approaching that challenge because the documents you sent show they are trying to find ways to, make up for the loss of some of that parkland. They want to enhance what's left of the park, make it more ecologically diverse.
They're even adding a play street for kids, which is kind of cool.
It is. It shows the thinking about how people actually use the space and trying to make it work for everyone.
And get this, they did this whole, tree census. Yeah, a dendrological assessment, they called it, to really understand what trees were already in the park. And they found some rare Engelmann spruces.
Wow, that's impressive. They really did their homework.
Okay, now let's talk about the riverfront itself, because the plans show a pretty dramatic makeover. We're talking outdoor cafes along the water, maybe a big plaza for events, and even terraces leading down to the Emajõgi.
Yeah, it sounds lovely, but, redeveloping a waterfront always comes with its own set of challenges. For one thing, the Emajõgi has a history of flooding.
Oh, right. That's something they definitely need to consider.
And then there's the impact on the river's ecosystem to think about. So it's a balancing act, right? Trying to create this inviting space for people while also being mindful of the natural environment.
And speaking of balancing acts, let's talk about cars, because one thing that really stuck out in the plans was this idea of making the city center less car-centric.
Yeah, that seems to be a big priority for them.
Yeah, are they even proposing reducing traffic lanes on Vabaduse puiestee, which is one of the main roads in the area, and making it more pedestrian and bike friendly?
It's a trend we're seeing in a lot of cities these days, trying to prioritize people over cars, which can be a good thing, but can be tricky. What about the drivers? They're not going to be too happy about fewer lanes.
Right. Right. And then there are businesses that rely on car traffic. It'll be interesting to see how they address those concerns, because I bet there are a lot of people who aren't going to be thrilled about this.
For sure. And you know what this makes me think about? Parking.
Yeah, okay, because if they're discouraging driving, where is everyone going to park?
Especially with all those visitors they're expecting at the cultural center. But, looking through these plans, it seems like they have thought about this at least a little bit. They mention using the existing parking garage, the one beneath the Emajõgi department store.
Oh, right, right.
And they're even talking about connecting it to the new cultural center with, underground parking.
Okay, so they're not getting rid of cars completely.
Not yet, anyway. Okay, ready for another interesting tidbit? So they've been doing some digging, literally, and found evidence of old buildings right where they're planning to build this new cultural center.
Wow, really? I guess that's not too surprising, though, is it? I mean, Tartu's an old city.
You're right, it's not unusual. But here's what's cool. They're actually thinking about incorporating some of these historical elements into the new design.
Oh, that's kind of awesome. What are they going to have, ruins on display or something?
I don't know about ruins exactly, but imagine, fragments of old foundations or walls, becoming a visible part of the new cultural center. It'd be like this direct link to the past.
I like it. It's like their history is woven right into the present. Okay, but now I have a different concern. What about accessibility? Will everyone be able to enjoy this cultural hub? What about people with, mobility issues?
Yeah. You are good at anticipating these things. That is really important, and they do mention it in the plans, although they don't really go into much detail about specific measures they're taking to make it accessible.
Yeah, that's fair. It's definitely something they'll need to address more as things progress.
Definitely. Because a truly great public space is one that everyone can enjoy.
Absolutely. It's like you were saying before about balancing progress with green spaces. They have to balance all these different needs.
Exactly. Like attracting visitors and making it greener and reducing traffic, it's a lot to juggle.
Mm.
And speaking of juggling, have you seen the part about noise pollution?
No, I don't think so.
So they're anticipating that with less traffic, especially on Vabaduse puiestee,
Mhm.
it's going to be a lot quieter.
That's good, right?
Right. You'd be like this little oasis right in the heart of the city. Although,
What about the construction itself? I mean, won't that be noisy?
oh yeah, good point. That's going to be a lot of noise for a long time.
And it's not like they haven't thought of it. They actually talk about how the new buildings should be designed in a way that minimizes noise.
Oh, interesting. So like what, quieter air conditioning units and things like that?
I guess so. Or maybe it's about the materials they use or the placement of the buildings. I don't know, but it's good that they're thinking about it.
Yeah, it is. Okay, now here's another thought. With all the concrete they're going to use, for the buildings and plazas and stuff, won't that cause problems with stormwater runoff?
Mm.
Especially since they're getting rid of some of the park, which would normally help absorb some of that water? Wow, you are on a roll today. But you're right, that is a valid concern. And guess what? They mention that too. And not just mention it, they suggest using these sustainable drainage systems, things like green roofs, to help soak up the rainwater.
Green roofs, that's cool.
It is. Plus, it's like a double win, right?
Yeah.
It helps manage the stormwater and adds a bit more green space to the city center.
So it all comes back to that balancing act again.
It always does.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not just about making the city center pretty or more functional. This project is also very much tied into Tartu's larger sustainability goals.
Which are?
Well, they talk a lot about wanting to be a greener city, reducing their carbon footprint. And this project, with the green roofs, the focus on pedestrians and bikes, it all feeds into that.
Okay, so they've got this vision of a greener, more people-friendly city center. They're trying to preserve history, create something new and exciting, and make it all sustainable. But there's still this part of me that wonders, will it still feel like Tartu? After all these changes.
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, will they be able to hold on to that special something that makes Tartu, well, Tartu?
Right. It's not just about building something new. It's about making sure it fits with the existing city.
And that's where, it becomes more than just urban planning. It's about understanding the soul of a place,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. But it does seem like they're trying to find that balance. Like, they keep talking about honoring the past, but also looking towards the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they seem to really want people to be a part of that process, like that environmental assessment we talked about. It's not just a formality for them. They're actually encouraging people to speak up, to share their thoughts and concerns.
So it's a work in progress, even now.
Oh, definitely. They even say in the documents that they expect there to be adjustments along the way.
It's good, right? It means they're listening.
Exactly. And that's what gives me hope, They're
Sure.
not just bulldozing ahead with a fixed plan. They're open to adapting and changing based on what they hear from the community.
So to everyone listening, this is a good reminder that you have a voice in shaping your own cities and towns.
100%. Get involved, speak up, make your voice heard, because ultimately, cities are for the people who live in them, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go back to Tartu one last time. Imagine you've just spent the day exploring this new cultural center. You've walked through the park, maybe grabbed that coffee by the river. As you look around, what do you see? Do you see a city that's lost its way, or a city that's found a way to move forward without leaving its past behind?
That's what I want to know.
Something to think about. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive into Tartu's big plans.